The lone Howl. Kale's first memory was of the cold. Born in the dead of winter, he had emerged into a world of biting winds and endless snow, where survival was a test given daily by the merciless frost. His littermates huddled close to their mother, their robust bodies thriving on the warm milk she provided. But Kyle, the smallest of them, often found himself pushed aside, his tiny whimpers swallowed by the howling winds outside the den. From the beginning, Kale was a wolf who learned to fight for every breath, every morsel, every scrap of acknowledgement. It wasn't just his siblings who treated him as an afterthought. The entire Frostfang pack, led by the hulking Alpha Thorn, barely spared him a glance. A runt, they called him. Not worth wasting food on, not strong enough to matter. The pack's world was a brutal hierarchy, and Kyle was at the bottom. When the older wolves needed someone to clean up after a kill, they barked orders at him. When the pups needed a punching bag for their rough games, Kyle was their target. Thorn's towering son, Rauk, was the worst of them all, a brute who embodied the strength and privilege of his father's rule. Kyle's quiet fury grew in the dark corners of the den, a smoldering ember buried beneath years of humiliation. He didn't cry or complain, he observed. He watched how Thorn commanded the pack with his sheer presence, how Rauk bullied others into submission, and how the hunters earned respect with their skill. One night, lying on the cold, hard ground while the rest of the pack slept in a warm pile, Kale looked up at the stars and made himself a silent promise. One day I'll stand above them all, and they'll never push me down again. As the seasons changed, Kyle's survival instincts became sharper. While his siblings reveled in the safety of the pack, Kyle ventured out alone, exploring the dense woods and frozen rivers that surrounded their territory. He learned the patterns of prey, the whispers of the wind, and the subtle shifts in the snow that signaled danger. But Kyle's growth came at a cost. His hunger for approval led him to reckless choices. Once he tried to join a hunt uninvited, determined to prove himself. He stalked a young deer alongside the seasoned hunters, his heart racing with excitement. But when the deer bolted and the pack failed to catch it, Thorn's fury descended on him like a storm. "You cost us a meal," Thorn snarled, his fangs inches from Kale's face. "Stay out of the way, runt, or I'll make you wish you'd never been born." Humiliated, Kyle retreated to the edge of the pack's territory, licking his wounds. But the fire inside him refused to die. If anything, it burned brighter. Kale's moment of reckoning came during one of the harshest winters the Frostfangs had ever faced. Prey was scarce, and the pack grew desperate. Thorn led the hunters on long, grueling chases, but their efforts yielded little. The pack's ribs began to show, and tensions ran high. It was during one of these hunts that Kyle spotted an opportunity. The pack had been tracking a massive elk, its antlers towering like a crown against the gray sky. But the elk was too strong, too fast. As the hunters pursued it, Kyle noticed a smaller deer lingering near the edge of the herd. Quietly, he broke away from the group, his paws barely making a sound on the snow. He moved with the precision of a shadow, his instincts honed from years of scavenging. When he pounced, it was with the ferocity of a wolf who had everything to prove. Kyle returned to the den with the deer dragging behind him, its blood staining the snow. The pack turned to him in shock, their hunger momentarily forgotten. Even Thorn's hard gaze softened as he nodded his approval. For the first time, Kyle felt the warmth of respect, though it was fleeting. From that day on, Kale began to earn his place in the pack. He wasn't just a scavenger anymore, he was a hunter. Thorn grudgingly allowed him to join the hunts, and Kale made sure to outshine the others whenever he could. He studied the movements of prey, the tactics of his fellow wolves, and the unspoken rules that governed their hierarchy. But Kyle's rise wasn't without opposition. Rauk, threatened by his growing reputation, made it his mission to remind everyone of Kale's lowly origins. "You'll never be more than a runt," he sneered one night after a successful hunt, "no matter how hard you try." Kyle didn't respond. He didn't need to. His victories spoke louder than words. Kale's opportunity to challenge the old order came during a time of crisis. The Frostfangs were struggling to find water as the streams and rivers froze over. Thorn, once a symbol of unshakable strength, appeared lost. The pack began to grumble, their faith in their leader faltering. Kale had been keeping a secret. During one of his solitary explorations, he had discovered a hidden spring deep within the forest, its water untouched by the freezing cold. He knew revealing it could shift the balance of power in the pack. One frigid morning, Kyle announced his discovery to the pack. Leading them to the spring, he watched as they drank deeply, their gratitude evident in their wagging tails and relieved expressions. Thorn's leadership, already weakened, was further undermined by Kyle's actions. The pack began to look to him for guidance, their loyalty shifting. Rauk was the first to challenge him. The fight was inevitable, a collision of brute force and cunning. Under the light of the full moon, the pack formed a circle around them, their breath visible in the cold night air. Rauk attacked with all the ferocity of his bloodline, but Kyle was ready. He moved with the agility of a wolf who had spent his life dodging blows, his strikes precise and calculated. The fight ended with Rauk on the ground, his throat exposed in submission. The pack howled their approval, their voices echoing through the forest. Kyle stood over his rival, his chest heaving, his heart pounding with the realization that he had won. Thorn, recognizing the inevitability of change, stepped down as Alpha. Under Kale's leadership, the Frostfangs became stronger than ever. He led them to new hunting grounds, defended their territory with unmatched ferocity, and ensured that every wolf knew their place. But Kyle never forgot the cold nights at the edge of the den, the hunger that had shaped him, and the stars that had witnessed his silent promise. He ruled not with cruelty, but with the unyielding strength of a wolf who had earned every ounce of respect. In the Frostfang's howls, Kale's name became a legend, a testament to the power of determination, resilience, and the unrelenting fire of a wolf who refused to be silenced. The end.